We are going to get started. Thank you for your patience. Hello and welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us to learn about the Critical Language Scholarship Program and how it's designed and implemented with inclusive student support as our main priority. Now, before we get started with the content of our presentation, I want to take a moment to introduce ourselves as presenters. My name is Becca Abu-Rakia Einhorn, and I'm the director for the CLS program here at American Councils for International Education. And I'm going to hand it off to Caitlin Ting to introduce herself. I think Caitlin might be frozen, unfortunately. So I will take a moment to introduce her and we will see if we can. Caitlin, are you able to introduce yourself?
I am. I'm back again.
Great.
Hi, everybody. My name is Caitlin Ting. I'm the Assistant Manager of Outreach and Selection for the CLS program. It's great to have you all here with us today.
And we're also honored to be joined today by Zion, a two-time CLS recipient, 2022 for Chinese and 2024 for Korean. You want to say hi? Give a little wave.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit more about yourself and your experience in the CLS program?
Sure. Thank you, Becca. So, hi, everyone. My name is Zion. As she mentioned, I participated in CLS Chinese in 2022 in Taipei, Taiwan, and in CLS Korea in 2024 this year in Gwangju, Korea. Both programs were completed in person. I'm currently an MD PhD student at Loma Linda University, and my dream is to work with people to practice whole person wellness.
Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, we're going to start with some basics and then we'll go a little bit more into the topic of inclusive student support. So stick with us for a little bit as we just go over, some of the main details of the program in case anyone here, this is one of your first few times coming into contact with the CLS program. So the CLS program is a program of the U.S. Department of State with funding provided by the U.S. government and supported in its implementation by us here at American Councils for International Education. Within the U.S. Department of State, the CLS program is administered by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, whose mission includes expanding study abroad opportunities for American students in order to reflect the diversity of U.S. society abroad. We take that commitment to diversity and inclusion very seriously, not only in making sure that we recruit a wide range of participants for the CLS program, but also in ensuring that our participants have the support structures in place to have a positive experience abroad. In this webinar, we will discuss how the CLS program is designed to provide access to groups that are typically underrepresented or underserved in this field of study abroad, and to provide inclusive support for all of our participants, regardless of their background, experiences, or identity.
We'll begin today by providing a very brief overview of the CLS program, again, just in case you're not already familiar with it, before we talk more about the goals of the CLS program as they relate to diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, or DEIA. You can leave questions for both us, the CLS staff, and for Zion in the Q&A box at any point during the presentation, and we'll do our best to answer them as soon as we're done with the prepared portion of today's presentation.
I also wanted to add that you should be able to select on the bottom menu CC for closed captions and be able to see an auto transcript of what we're saying. So I just wanted to point out that feature in case anyone doesn't know about it. If at any point you need any tech support or anything else for accessibility, just message us in the webinar chat. All right, the CLS program is an opportunity to intensively study a critical language and the culture of the region where it is spoken over the summer. It supports students from all fields of study and at all degree levels to learn what the U.S. Department of State refers to as critical languages. These are languages that tend to be less commonly taught in the United States or have relatively few proficient speakers, and they are essential to U.S. national security, economic prosperity, and U.S. engagement with the world.
The CLS program has two models, CLS Overseas and CLS Spark Virtual Programming. The CLS program strives to attract applicants from a wide array of institutions, geographic regions, and fields of study, with the goal of continuing to increase access to critical language learning. The CLS program has introduced CLS Spark, a virtual initiative that focuses on offering beginning level instruction. Through CLS Spark, students who may not otherwise have access to critical language study at their home universities or the opportunity to travel abroad can participate in beginning level language and cultural instruction.
The CLS program overseas offers instruction in a dozen critical languages. Some CLS languages have prerequisite requirements to participate in the CLS program overseas. Applicants can meet these requirements through formal classes at the college level, or they may substitute other language learning experience for formal classes, such as self-study, tutoring, high school coursework, or knowledge of the language from their home environment. In any case, applicants must have a plan to meet any requirements by the beginning of June, when the program starts. CLS Spark offers virtual beginning level instruction for Arabic, Chinese, and Russian, and this year we have added Korean and Japanese, as well as virtual advanced beginning level instruction for Japanese. Preference for Spark is given to applicants from campuses that do not offer the Spark language on their home campus. Now, I wanted to ask Zion, what was your motivation for applying to the CLS program, and what motivated your interest specifically in Chinese and in Korean?
Thanks for your question, Becca. So, as someone who hopes to serve my community well as a physician scientist, I know it's critical for me to be culturally competent. And one particular experience highlights that for me. I was shadowing a physician in the hospital, basically following her around for the day, and she wanted to reassure the patient's mother that he would be all right. The family spoke Spanish, and the physician didn't have access to an interpreter at that time, so she could only move on to her other clinical duties. This situation was really frustrating for me, so I set out to find opportunities to equip myself to meet patients and team members where they are, particularly through a common language. Specifically, as to why I'm learning Korean, I started learning Korean because many of my classmates and professors are Korean. In addition, I joined a Korean church, and here I teach 3rd to 5th grade students. And one day, when the kids said they wanted to pray for their 할아버지, but I had no idea what they said. Thankfully, my sister, an avid learner of Korean, was there and translated the meaning of grandfather for me. This was a pivotal moment because I realized if I truly wanted to connect with the kids in my class, as well as my classmates and professors, I needed to not only know their latest interests and hardships, I also needed to know their language. They wanted to share something they cared for deeply with me, and I didn't understand. So, like I said, I wanted to change that. In addition, I'd also heard of the innovative work in the healthcare system and research in Korea as well as Taiwan from other MD PhD students who did CLS. And so that was really an additional motivating factor. And at the same time, I struggled to understand the nuances of this rich community. And I knew that CLS provides this protected time and opportunity to learn Korean. And so the dream is to continue international partnerships in the world of medicine and research, because by building mutual understanding and trust, collaborations can flourish, treatment plans can be effectively executed, and quality healthcare is accessible to all.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Zion. I think we can safely say that a lot of you, or a lot of us, would like you as our physician. The CLS program, including CLS Spark, takes place over the course of 8 to 10 weeks during the summer. Students in the CLS program overseas take courses at partner institutes abroad, while students in CLS Spark take live courses virtually from partner institutes abroad. Students in either model participate as a member of a cohort, sharing the same schedule over the course of the program. And the program is academically challenging, with every aspect designed to maximize language gains and connect with the host culture. Each scholar is paired with a language partner for practice outside of the classroom. The CLS program puts a strong focus on students getting the opportunity to connect with the local culture and to form friendships with local people.
One of the most notable things about the CLS program is that costs that are covered by the overseas program include round trip international airfare from the US program site, from the US to your program site, in addition to any applicable visa fees, housing and meals, classroom instruction, and the cost of program sponsored cultural programming and group trips in the host site.
For CLS Spark, costs covered by the program include all language instruction and cultural programming, as well as course materials. The scholarship also provides a modest stipend to use towards supplementary technology and equipment and connectivity costs that will help participants succeed in an all virtual program. Participants from both the Overseas Institute and CLS Spark receive undergraduate credit from Bryn Mawr College, which is documented on an official transcript.
So just to confirm, the CLS program is a funded program. It's funded by the US Department of State, and you could receive 6 credits that you can transfer back into your institution. And in that way, it can be an accessible international exchange opportunity for individuals who might feel that the study abroad programs on your campus are perhaps financially out of reach. So I want to talk about the 4 principal lenses and specifically how the CLS program approaches diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility across our programming. Guided by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs (BEIA) statement, the CLS program incorporates best practices from the fields of education abroad and higher education to provide equal opportunities that are measured through 4 principal lenses. These are diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. The CLS program applies these principles to all aspects of the program with the goal of providing a program that reflects the full breadth of the United States. This approach begins with the recruitment and selection of scholars and continues with student preparation and support, the training of staff and partners, the implementation of the program abroad, and alumni engagement and activities. Monitoring and reporting over time provide a baseline for continued progress across these measures.
We'd like to share how the CLS program approaches each of these lenses. In terms of diversity, the CLS program works to reflect the full breadth of the United States and its scholars and staff to achieve a balanced representation of our country abroad and contribute to the varied experiences that inform our programs. For equity, the CLS program ensures systemically fair and just access to opportunities for all students, including those belonging to historically underserved communities. In terms of inclusion, the CLS program supports each student to engage meaningfully with the language and culture of their host community, with respect for the unique challenges facing students from historically underserved communities. Finally, with accessibility, the CLS program delivers accessible programming that is responsive to the needs of persons with disabilities and works together with its partners to eliminate barriers to participation.
So if you are thinking this program isn't for me, or am I the kind of person who could win a CLS program scholarship? The answer is that we have participants and applicants from across the United States, across many different backgrounds and identities. Our inclusive approach to recruitment has produced a wide array of candidates that reflects the breadth and depth of American higher education. We receive applications from students at approximately 700 different institutions of higher education each year, including over a quarter of which are recognized as minority serving institutions. And from this applicant pool, a fair and equitable selection process results in a diverse group each year. In 2024, our participants represented all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. Participants came from 257 different institutions across the United States, including participants from 27 community colleges and 63 minority serving institutions. 27% of our participants were recipients of Pell Grants, 19% reported being first-generation college students, and 49% identified as non-white. And while we do measure our success through many of the statistics just mentioned, these reflect the effectiveness of our application design and our outreach and recruitment activities. It's important to note that demographic information is not, and while we celebrate these successes, I do want to make sure it's clear that demographic information is not considered during the application process. And so with that, I wanted to ask Zion, how did your identity impact your decision to study abroad? And did you have any concerns when you were applying for the CLS program?
Thanks for your question, Becca. So growing up in a Taiwanese American household, I understood my identity as a bridge builder. And so at home, my family and I spoke Mandarin. At school, my classmates and I spoke English. And traversing home and school, I learned to share my values and practices in Mandarin with my classmates in English and tell my family in Mandarin all that I was learning and experiencing in English at school. And so most recently, as I've left home and made a new one away from family, bridges I've built across academic fields and social groups are rooted in my values of hospitality and mutual understanding. And so in terms of studying abroad in Korea, I know I am Asian appearing, and at the same time, my Korean was at a level that was very beginner, and I knew that I'd already had the experience of studying abroad in Taiwan under my belt from 2022, and I said, I can travel, I can study abroad, but I was still apprehensive. I was super excited to plug into community there and get to know people. At the same time, I questioned my own ability to travel within the country, to speak the language. And I think participating in CLS really quelled many of those fears. As were mentioned by Caitlin and Becca, there are so many resources and more that we'll discuss later that are available to you as a participant to really make sure that you are well cared for and can make the most out of your language learning experience.
Thank you so much. And I think that your description of yourself as a bridge builder is like prior to applying is really important. I think a lot of students who come from underserved or underrepresented backgrounds and study abroad often wonder if they are a good fit for study abroad. And I think the answer is they're a great fit because a lot of students who come from different backgrounds have already spent time in the United States learning to communicate across different cultures, across different communities. And those are exactly the kind of skills that we need on the CLS program and exactly the kind of skills that, you know, help our participants thrive when they're learning another language in another country. And I'm going to hand it back to Caitlin.
Wonderful. All right, so this webinar is about inclusive student support. So let's go ahead and talk about what we mean by that. We provided some language here that we've adopted to explain what we mean when we talk about providing inclusive support. On the screen, we have a definition from the University of Houston, which has really helped to guide some of the conversations that we have on this topic. I want to read that for you right now. In particular, they define inclusion as the act of creating involvement, environments, and empowerment in which any individual or group can be and feel welcome, respected, supported, and valued to fully participate. We spend a lot of time developing programming and student resources that are inclusive in the support they provide to students who participate in the CLS program.
Now this chart shows you all the different ways throughout the year that we are working on this. Recruiting and selecting a wide range of candidates is only the first step to building an inclusive and an accessible program. It's also necessary to provide comprehensive preparation and training of students as well as staff on before the program begins to build support mechanisms into the summer programming and to draw on our experiences from each summer to strengthen our programming and our resources for future years. Working together with our students, staff, teachers, and alumni collaboratively, we're able to build inclusive support structures that are responsive to the needs of our participants. So let's talk about what we're doing in each of the 4 areas shown on this slide: application and selection, pre-program support, on-program support, and post-program activities.
Still muted, sorry about that. Sometimes scholarship applications can unintentionally reward students who attend institutions that are better resourced or have a history of producing National Scholarship Award recipients. Well, here in CLS, our goal is to fairly evaluate students from different academic and socioeconomic backgrounds, regardless of whether there are strong campus resources, and our application design reflects that. There is no minimum GPA required in order to participate or apply for this program. We believe that the ability to learn another language and culture abroad and to apply it constructively to one's career is not necessarily determined by the prestige of your institution or by a student's overall GPA. And we make efforts to expand the base of Americans who pursue these opportunities. Similarly, we do not require nor do we accept recommendations. Furthermore, we consciously limit the space devoted to previous awards and opportunities earned to limit the degree to which prior successes are determining future opportunities. Lastly, our selection criteria are specific to the program model. For the program overseas, evaluators are looking at prospective scholars' commitment to language learning, the connection between language study and the applicant's professional and academic goals, preparation, adaptability, and applicants' ability to serve as effective representatives of the United States abroad. Whereas for CLS Spark, evaluators are looking at an applicant's motivation for language learning, their readiness and resolve, and their unique background and experience, as well as the potential impact participation in CLS Spark will have on the applicant.
The CLS program emphasizes transparency and fairness in the selection process. We post our selection criteria publicly, and we develop accessible materials each year to help applicants write competitive applications. Recognizing the broad range of candidates, including undergraduate and graduate students, and students with different language proficiency levels, we take a strengths-based approach. We evaluate each applicant on their own merits rather than in comparison with other candidates in different circumstances. And we hope that with more intentionally inclusive outreach and support on our programs, these numbers will move even closer to representing the full breadth of the United States. We also aim to reflect the breadth of the country in our selection process. For the selection process of our 2024 cohort, there were 404 different readers from 264 different colleges, universities, and institutions across the United States. And of those 404 readers, almost 1/4 were from minority-serving institutions. We have also had over 70 alumni who have served as evaluators.
Building the cohort is only the beginning. We also want to make sure we're designing our program intentionally to provide support structures that are inclusive of students from all backgrounds. The CLS program prepares scholars for the experience of intensive language learning through a comprehensive set of pre- and on-program support. Scholars in the overseas program receive detailed handbooks tailored for their institutes, introducing them to the host institution and location, its culture and society, health and safety details, and orienting them to the program. Throughout the spring, scholars engage with pre-recorded program videos and attend live site-specific sessions where they meet other cohort members and discuss strategies for cultural adjustment, group dynamics, intensive language learning, and self-care. Program staff also host virtual coffee chat sessions, raising awareness of common program challenges, providing coping strategies and resources for students ahead of the summer, and connecting students with fellow peers and previous CLS alumni. Finalists also receive pre-programmed packages with an emergency wallet card with important phone numbers of on-site and DC staff, bilingual allergy cards if needed, and an APSI insurance card.
The CLS program works throughout the entire year to strengthen our staff capacity in this area by attending conferences and participating in workshops, ensuring that our programming aligns with best practices in the field of education abroad. Additionally, through partnerships with DEIA-focused organizations like Diversity Abroad and Mobility International USA, which is an excellent organization that helps increase the number of people with disabilities in international exchange, we at CLS aim to raise awareness among our language teachers and partner institutions abroad about issues affecting American participants and trends among American college students. We connect CLS scholars to program alumni with unique identities and backgrounds so that they can discuss how identity might shape their study abroad experience and prepare them for what to expect when they're on program. And through this network, students can hold unmediated conversations with alumni of similar backgrounds to learn more about what to expect in their host countries, including attitudes about race, religion, or sexual identity, or about how to manage mental health abroad.
In their host communities, CLS scholars are supported by teachers and administrators at the local institute, an institute director appointed by the host institution to oversee the program, and a resident director, typically an American staff member with experience in the host region. Resident directors work closely with the institute director and other local staff and serve as the first level resource for scholars, supporting their adjustment to the host community, responding to emergencies, and supporting the scholars by offering strategies for cultural adjustment and academic success. Resident directors are prepared for the importance of understanding each scholar's experience, and they work to address the concerns of scholars with empathy and understanding. For students who require accommodations to participate fully in the program, we work closely together with them and our institutional partners abroad to understand better their needs and what is possible in the host location. During the summer, we work to adjust programming and discourse with all parties, since a student's expectations of their needs based on a US environment may not be accurate when translated to the environment overseas.
I mentioned this briefly at the beginning, but for many students with limited financial resources, studying abroad is only possible if they can earn academic credit for their work. And for this reason, we work with Bryn Mawr College to accredit the CLS program and CLS Spark, allowing all of our participants to receive 8 semester hours worth of undergraduate credit, which they can transfer to their home institutions. Participants also have their language ability certified through what is called the ACTFL, ACTFL OPI test, which stands for Oral Proficiency Interview. The ACTFL OPI is widely recognized in professional and academic communities as a measure of proficiency in world languages. And all of our alumni receive an OPI certificate that certifies their language learning and their language gains in the program, which can also be used for future employment or other opportunities. All CLS alumni also receive non-competitive eligibility for federal employment, which is a great perk or advantage to those who are interested in applying to jobs with the federal government. If CLS Spark applicants remain eligible and they choose to apply to an overseas institute to continue studying the language they studied in CLS Spark. So for example, if you apply to Spark and study Russian in the CLS Spark program and then would like to continue and apply for the overseas Russian program the next summer, you receive automatic semifinalist status for the CLS Study Abroad Institutes the following year if you apply to continue your same target language.
We also encourage students with unique backgrounds to serve as alumni ambassadors and mentors. This gives them a platform to speak about their experiences abroad, offer advice to future CLS participants, and have a voice in the development of support materials. After the program, we engage with scholars to collect feedback and improve our program year to year. Staff and scholars alike are encouraged to think about identity-related challenges from each summer and to draw on the experience of our scholars, challenges as well as successes, to inform our future programming. Zion, what support mechanisms did you find helpful? Were there any experiences or individuals that you drew upon before the program or maybe during the program?
Thanks for your question, Caitlin. I'm so excited to talk about this because there were so many resources that CLS offered before, during, and after the program that really empowered me to make the most of the time um, before, during, and after. So I'll go through a small list of them. So I'll start off with the Alumni Resource Directory. So in preparation for going to Taiwan, I looked for anyone and everyone who were somehow medical related. I just finished my first year of medical school and was really interested in learning about the medical system in Taiwan, and how people who participated in CLS Chinese brought back their language skills. And so I was able to connect with people through there, and whether it was them, the alumni themselves listed there, or alumni referring me to their friends who also did CLS. That's how I was able to actually also learn about CLS Korean and really strengthen my Korean from there as well. And I'll share a specific example. This time around going to Korea, I was looking for someone who did CLS Korean and was also doing something that I want to do in terms of my career, which is helping people who regain speech function, specifically after strokes or other traumatic events. And I found someone through the directory, and she was so surprised that I found her, because she was like, this is a very niche field. And so that was really cool. And she was able to connect me with one of her advisors in Korea when I was there as well. Okay, second is office hours. During CLS Chinese, I wasn't able to go as often because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk with them about. But afterwards, I said that needs to change. And so in CLS Korean, I went to nearly every office hour, the time that was available. And I remember the first office hours in Korea, I was crying because I felt frustrated that I still wasn't learning the language as quickly as I'd hoped. And the teacher consoled me and said, it's okay. And I also remember the words from my teacher in Taiwan. She's like, language learning takes time, like take one step at a time. But one thing that CLS Korean teacher told me this time around was like, God loves you. And that reminded me like why I was learning in the first place. And so she also invited me to her church. And at the end, at the church, I was able to meet some uh, residents, so people who had finished medical school and are training in specific specialties. And throughout that whole summer, I've been trying to find medical students or other doctors to talk with, and come to see that going to church, I got to meet some. In addition, our resident director was very cool and helpful. She actually lived in the city that we were in for some time, and was kind to connect me with her local resources. And so I got to meet a physician who was serving immigrant communities, which is something I'm also interested in. And we got to connect there as well. So I talked about alumni resource directory, office hours, and our resident director. Our teachers are amazing, in case that wasn't clear yet. Our pre-program orientation sessions were also really helpful for participating in CLS Chinese. I joined the Heritage Learners group, and Sasha, our alumni ambassador, was very helpful in just helping us guide our preparations and also our time in country. And then last thing I'll touch upon for CLS cohort language partners and roommates. I mentioned earlier I was wasn't sure how I was going to do in Korea, like how I would get around and things like that. But our language partners took such good care of us. Uh, in the at the end of our time, our roommates prepared this huge trip for us to take together, and they just cared so much for us, always checking in on how we're doing. And actually, this year after CLS Korean, I was able to go back to Taiwan for a research conference. And there I got to meet up with language partners, teach my teacher, and other cohort members who were in Taiwan at that time. And so just the full circle of all this, like the whole CLS team is super supportive and are on your side to help you make the most out of your time.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing, like you said, before, during, and after. I love to see that full circle made. Thank you, Kazan.
I see a question in the chat. I'm going to hold it until the end. We have a few more slides and then we'll be finished and we'll be able to answer questions. So thank you for your patience. The CLS program is committed to ensuring that the opportunities offered by the CLS program are accessible to all Americans. We work together with scholars early to identify their needs and throughout the program to offer support and assistance to enable each scholar to take full advantage of the linguistic and cultural training that the CLS program provides. Study abroad is difficult, and it requires a lot out of every student, and it challenges each of our participants with new experiences, new environments, and new modes of communication. For students from backgrounds that are historically underrepresented in higher education and in study abroad, these challenges can be even more difficult. These are countries and locations where we send CLS participants that may have political and social environments that are very different from those that we are used to here in the US or that we are used to on college campuses. And the perception of race and other identities is very different. Each scholar often takes on new identities in the local context, in addition to those that they carry with them in the United States. Additionally, public accommodations for disability and access will be very different and will require scholars with disabilities, chronic health conditions, or environmental or food allergies to think differently about what is needed for them to navigate a new space. We acknowledge the difficulty that comes with the decision to leave a comfortable environment or one that you've learned to be comfortable in and participate in a difficult experience abroad. Still, the alumni of the CLS program who have chosen to participate have also found these experiences to be extremely rewarding, and that with the support of our staff and partners, our alumni community, and each cohort's support for each other, that students of all backgrounds and all abilities have been able to complete the program successfully and benefit fully from it.
Now let's touch a little bit on the impact of CLS. Proficiency in a critical language as well as cross-cultural competency opens doors for alumni seeking further academic and employment opportunities. Studying abroad can help you develop and hone skills that employers seek, such as resilience, adaptability, confidence, and a growth mindset. And our alumni frequently speak of the benefit of joining a vibrant and engaged community of international exchange alumni, with fellow CLS program alumni often becoming a source of support when navigating career decisions or additional fellowships and scholarships post-CLS. CLS alumni also become a part of the rich and vibrant network that is the U.S. Department of State's International Exchange alumni. Zion, I want to pause here and give you another opportunity to speak. Can you tell us a little bit about what you might consider as some of the greatest benefits of having participated in CLS?
Thank you, Caitlin, for the question. I have 3 C's to share about. So the first is community, the second is competency, and then the third is courage. So CLS has so many benefits, and one aspect is the community, both in country and in their host country, and then in the United States as well. So I'll talk about in our host country first. So one of the truly providential moments with CLS Korean was, so I mentioned I teach kids at the local Korean church. Well, the pastor at that church, his parents were also pastoring a church in Korea in the specific city that I was in. And that was one way that I got to plug into community there. And from there, coming back to the United States, I was able to share these experiences with my local church community here. And that really expanded the network that I have not only at church, but also in the hospital where I will be training and working eventually, Lord willing. And so that in one sense is the specific Korean community that I got to be a part of. And in terms of the CLS alumni community, um, I got to serve as an alumni ambassador last year. And through there, I got to meet amazing people who studied other languages as well. And we got to host panels to feature different careers. And that really just opened my eyes to um, the ways that we integrate language into so many different aspects of our lives and work. And specifically, my CLS Chinese cohort, um, we got to be really good friends, and we still talk to this day. And it's encouraging to walk with one another as we continue practicing that language. But also, as I mentioned, if we happen to be in the same city, we can get to see one another again. In terms of competency, I mentioned that for me, Korean was challenging to learn because with CLS Chinese, I was already a heritage learner and I thought, okay, I can do this. I can apply the same mindset in learning Korean. But as my teacher had reminded me, learning languages takes time. And so in terms of the competency and courage. Coming back now after spending those 8 weeks in Korea, even this morning, I started classes and I passed by an office of a teacher I don't know, but I heard her listening to Korean and I could start a conversation with her in Korean. And that's the competency and courage that CLS gave me, even with engaging with people that I've never met before.
Thank you.
So something that does define all CLS participants is a commitment to language learning and a commitment to connecting across different cultures. But that said, there really is no single profile of a CLS participant. CLS participants hail from all parts of the US, all backgrounds, all kinds of institutions, rural, urban, suburban, and from many different identities and cultures from different family types. And so I just want you to remember that there really is no single profile of a CLS participant or a successful CLS applicant. As we conclude today's presentation, we want to remind you that the application for the CLS 2025 program is opening in the coming weeks in early October. The deadline for the CLS program will be November 19th at 8 p.m. ET or 5 p.m. Pacific time. Now, we recommend submitting well in advance of the deadline, just to avoid any last minute computer glitches that might prevent you from submitting before the deadline. And I'm going to hand back to Caitlin to give you some insights into what resources we have available to you as you start your application.
Great. Thanks, Becca. So by providing robust resources for all applicants, we really hope to make this application accessible and inclusive, maybe even enjoyable. By the time the application launches, we will have videos that walk through each of the essay questions and to explain in detail how students might go about answering the questions based on their experiences. These resources and others will be available online at clscholarship.org/apply. The program selection criteria are also available on our website under the applicant selection. So that way you know exactly what the reviewers are looking for. Zion, do you have any final advice or tips that you might share with those who are interested in applying for CLS? Maybe some words of encouragement?
I love applying. I love the process of applying for CLS because it really helped me articulate and put into words what exactly I was doing and why it was so important to me. And so as you engage in this process, I would encourage you to bring your current community members into this conversation. So whether it's a brother or sister who is also super passionate about that language, or friends or teachers, they, in the process of talking with them, conversing, you can start to better understand for yourself as well. And they can offer great insights into how to articulate your story. And if you have, I know for me, I'm in graduate school now, and in college, I had this amazing writing center, but I didn't have one here. And so I was like, oh no, what can I do? But as I mentioned, a brother, a sister, a parent, a friend, those are all great resources. And even a professor or someone else, just reach out and share, because in that process, for example, when I was telling people I was applying for Korean, they were so surprised, saying, why are you doing that? But then I got to share the reasons for doing so. And the second tip I would share is, as you're applying for CLS, thinking about that summer ahead, how important your time and energy are. So all that to say is, as you bring your community members into your application process, you're sharing a piece of yourself with them, and hopefully you get to learn from them as well.
I love that. As a former fellowships advisor, I think the emphasis on feedback and having it be a conversation, expecting drafts, I couldn't say that better myself.
All right. I am also a former fellowships advisor at an institution. And I loved hearing about Zion's motivation for studying, but I also want to emphasize, similarly to how I said there's no single profile of a successful CLS applicant, that the best essays and the best applications are the ones where the evaluators and the readers get to know you as a person. And that means that your reasons for wanting to participate in the program are true for you. And it's going to be different for every person, right? Zion's reason is not the same reason that I have learned some of the languages that I've learned. And that's because our backgrounds, our stories, our interests are different. And so one thing that I would say before I get to the questions is just to encourage you to do what Zion said and speak to people around you in your community, people who are, sometimes we call them windows and mirrors, right? So people who can help you see things, like a window helps you see things outside, and a mirror helps you see things in yourself. So people who can help you figure out what is your story, right? Because when you're able to articulate your story, your interests, your motivation, your history, and what you see as your future, that is what makes a really successful applicant, and that's what the readers are really drawn to. With that said, this concludes the formal presentation, and we're going to get to questions.